Okay, good morning, welcome. I'm going to kick off our webinar. So on project templates. My name is Wim, founder of TopLeft. I'm excited to have a conversation with Dean and Tennille today around project templates. I think it sounds boring, administrative templates, whatever, admin work, but it's a huge impact, and I've seen that. So we're going to unpack that and together. Tennille is an operations leader at an MSP in the US, Morgan Birgé, and um, Dean Sanderson has also been an operations manager in multiple MSPs from various growth sizes, and is now helping other MSPs around the country. Welcome to Neil and Dean.
Thank
Thank
you
you.
for having me.
Good. And a bit of housekeeping. Obviously, we got the Zoom Q&A, the standard things. Put in the chat here. I'd love to hear how you're using templates today. So not at all. For every project, if it's partial, just where are they at? Or what do you think you can improve with them? So let's light up the chat. How are you using templates? And yes, AJ, recording will be sent after the webinar. So typically within a day or two, once we get it uploaded and the email written. And that's actually in our project template, so I'll show you that later. It'll be a little bit meta, but we use templates as well to run the webinars. And okay, so let's jump in here and talk about why templates. So what are the problems they solve? And look at a few things on the slide here of the engineers wasting their time, non-billable work, etc. I just want to. Tennille, I guess why should people consider templates? What are the problems it solves and that you've seen?
They make your life easier overall. So I think being able to consistently deliver on your projects, having that framework, just because you have a template, a framework, it doesn't mean that you can't deviate from that for that client or that project, etc. But it gives you that framework as a starting point that then you can lead from.
Yeah, I would agree with that wholeheartedly. It just makes project managers' life simpler.
Yep. And yeah, and I've seen inconsistent delivery. Just every project is done differently, and they should be the same, no matter who does it. Right? And if the project is not designed properly in a standard way, then how can you see what's going on? Just it's a bunch of time on the project. So this leads into a lot of things with execution visibility.
I think
Anyway,
too, with that consistency and the consistent delivery that time that templates provide, then it's easier to share work. And a lot of the time we'll say, oh, I have a lead engineer that always does this. Well, what happens when that lead engineer gets sick or has a family member that gets sick? And it's when you're utilizing templates and working in a similar manner, then it makes it so much easier to work as a team and to share those responsibilities.
yeah,
That's true, and it helps the work flow through the organization. So if you build your templates out correctly, you can make sure that the work is flowing at a good rate so that you don't have people jumping ahead to tasks that aren't ready yet as well.
Well said.
mm, going yeah, and managing scope, as people know what's actually included in the project, and not I'm not sure, let's just do it. So it just helps with maintaining your profitability. If you're not throwing in things and knowing what's in the scope and what is going to be billable or extra or need approval on. And your templates will help with that. Okay. So what does it happen if we get to the situation we just don't have good templates? Yeah.
Yeah, I think a lot of people think that the effort to put in to create a project template is not worth the outcome that they're going to get from that, the organization, that it's too much effort to put into creating the templates and to manage them moving forward is going to be not worth the effort.
Yeah, we work in different ways, right?
Mhm.
So because we work in different ways, we shouldn't create templates when really maybe we should align on the way that we work.
Yep. That's huge because it's got to be a company way. Um, did a webinar with another client, Kevin, and he shared that is once they actually put their heads together, make the company way of doing it, the run biz way they call it, and that it really improved their flow and profitability and everything. Because how everyone did it was probably good, but it was different. Um, yeah, so they standardizing on that.
Yes, and your client experience kind of gets watered down with that when you're doing it different ways. Nobody knows, your customers don't know what to expect, um, project to project.
Yeah,
And you're not optimizing or perfecting your delivery, right? Maybe the way that one person is doing a portion is, um, how should I say, better than another, and maybe another portion that other person is doing better. So if we can all align and agree on the best way to do it, and align, providing that customer with the optimal support across all facets of the project. I too like Shauna called out that she has hundreds of templates, and I get this, right? She says different templates depending on the department, the project type. And so that happens, right? We get so many templates created that then we have this like template overload, and we think, I don't even know which template to choose. So do I create a new one? And so there's this ticket or this template cleanup that needs to happen, or this ticket or template alignment that needs to happen. I definitely see that as being a challenge and being a place where the team needs to come together and really be strategic with their templates.
Yeah, and keep them simple and review them from time to time so you don't have 20 projects that aren't used or haven't been updated in a while and are maybe referencing old documentation or SOPs that you've moved away from, and then you run that problem of project variance in that regard as well.
Mhm.
yeah. So yeah, I'd like to hear from people. We've got 14 people here. Don't be a lurker. Love to hear like why don't you have templates, or why aren't your templates better, or why is your team not using it? Just post in the chat. Want to hear from you all. Let's keep this conversation. I've talked to a lot of MSPs, and some just scared of the project module in their MSA. They're like, it sucks, or it's just overwhelming, a lot of complexity, and they're like, we'll just use tickets, or they're using it to kind of group some tickets together, but just haven't gotten into templates. And what I've seen, if you actually look at it, it's not that hard. We have some screenshots. Like, it's not that hard. Um, they're pretty simple. Actually, they could use more functionality in their template modules. A lot of them are a bit too basic. So we'll talk about that later. Okay, then I just think for a lot of people, it's the status quo. It's just, we just haven't spent the time on it. It's the way that we've been doing things, or how my predecessor did it, and just reusing it. But this is something that every quarter, or even every week, you got to be looking at the templates and improving them. Okay.
Yeah, and along with that, when Carissa just called out, process and approaches change quickly. How can we make sure that the templates can keep up? That is such a real thing. And I think we're talking about how you keep your templates live. And Carissa, I had an example this morning. I had a team member, our procurement manager, reached out to me and said, I have an issue. I can't order licenses because I don't have this. And so I quickly went in, I took 1 minute and I created a new task in a template this morning. And then going forward, that's going to save me from that procurement manager reaching out with another escalation. It's going to save the delay in the project timeline, etc. And so what I like to do is just keep them live. I will have conversations with my team members as they're bringing up issues, or as I have escalations, in order to make sure that I am updating those and just keeping them live.
Yeah, I think that's great, and I think the other thing that you can add to that is doing a lessons learned meeting at the end of that project. Where did we get stuck? What steps did we miss? And then add those steps into the project template so that you don't miss it next time. It just becomes part of that continuous improvement
Yeah,
of your process, and the template almost becomes your documented steps of the process.
yeah.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I recommend in the template is you have a ticket which says when we're done the project, let's go loop back and update our template. So you got that reminder, and you don't close the project until you've closed that loop. Um, but I was just thinking, like, you've just from my own projects and templates, is actually got to almost have that template up all the time. So you catch it while you're doing the work, or see people doing the work as you're updating it. So it's kind of both, not one or the other, but because the project could be a month or two, and if you get to the end of it and you do that retrospective, you've forgotten kind of where you needed more clarity or more steps, more detail on the project ticket. So a bit of
Yeah.
both. So okay,
Yeah.
got a lot of good feedback here.
Yeah, there is.
Um,
The templates are tedious to set up and usually need some messaging based upon usage. So the
was
first time you create a template, that's true, right? Your very first template. Well, maybe that's true. If if the if you work a new project type for the first time, then you'll define that project plan throughout the life of the project. And then at the end of the project, you can take that project plan and change it to a template, do a little bit of cleanup on it. That is how I recommend if you have a new delivery, a new product. Then you're just making tweaks to it over time. And the messaging, if your team's delivering it and that's how the team has delivered it, it should be pretty consistent, especially if you have a stand up or a place like that where your team's continuously talking, everybody's kind of naturally aligned. I don't know if that resonates with um, you and that comment, or if you have kind of challenges with that.
I think she meant messaging based on, or massaging based on usage. So
Oh, thank you. Thank
yeah,
you.
but yeah, what you
But
said,
yeah,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yep. Continuously updating them. Absolutely.
And there's a comment in here about waiting until the team has an agreement on best practices. And I think best practices are also ever evolving. And I think get the template in and then tweak it as your best practices evolve and what you should do. Don't wait until it's perfect. Just get it in and iterate on it. Continuous improvement is better than waiting until it's perfect.
yeah,
I love that. And the process to change your templates, you may want some process around that. That being said, I would make it as light as possible in order to make it easy to make changes to it and make it a living document.
yeah. Uh, Sean has a question. Yeah, project ticket predecessors at the template level. I have not seen that in not in ConnectWise, and I don't think it's in Autotask or Halo either. That's something you got to do when you stand up your project.
It
So
is in Halo to a
okay,
degree. You can set up some predecessors, but it's very tedious. Might be one of those things where it's better to use the template and then do it like you said, when in the project once you've deployed the template.
yeah. So yeah, you could have a task or a ticket in that template. It says, yeah, go set the predecessors, and just in each ticket say this one will depend on. Just put it in your notes as a reminder. So that is, if you remember, it might not be you using the template. It could be somebody else down the road, a year, 2 years down the road, who doesn't even work for you yet. Should be able to use the template as well. That should, yeah, anybody should be able to set up the project with the existing templates. Yeah. Okay. Good. Love the comments. So yeah, cost of not having these. A few things here. Is if you haven't standardized the work, then you always have to go back to the technical resources to scope it out. So the more we can standardize the work through that whole sales process, that's going to save engineer time, so they can focus on doing the technical work instead of quoting out stuff that may or may not actually close. Have you seen that as a benefit, Dean?
Absolutely. So
Yeah.
what we did or what I've done in the past in ConnectWise is we modularized our project template. So it was small sections rather than one large template. So ConnectWise allows you to pull in multiples. So you could pull in multiple templates on what you needed to update. That gave the sales team the ability to look at it and say, okay, this is 80 hours. And then it was just a quick check by an engineer to say, oh, you need to add some time here because there's some complexity around this particular component. Increase the time. And so your time goes on the engineer from being an hour to 15 minutes. Just a quick check to make sure that there's some sanity before you send that quote out.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah. Then I've seen a bottleneck on senior people. I put in quotes Brent there. I don't know if everyone knows who Brent is, but that's the character from the book we recommend, The Phoenix Project. Anybody read this one? Highly recommend it. Yeah. There's a novel about IT and DevOps and Kanban and those kinds of things, how to improve flow. And Brent was the senior engineer. He'd been there 10 years, and he was the guy, no matter what project it was, it seemed like eventually he had to be pulled in, even though it wasn't in the project plan. So they had a whole process to make him not the bottleneck. Yeah, Tennille, anything else from these that you've seen in your world?
One thing that really shouts out to me is the slower onboarding of new hires, because so often what I hear is, I know how to do this. I don't need the template, right? Or I know how to do this. I don't need to follow the template. But then if we do have those templates that we're utilizing as a company, hopefully we're growing, right? Hopefully we need to hire someone new at some point. And when we have those templates in place, when we do hire a new person, we have that framework in place, and it makes them so much easier to onboard them, teach them how we do it, what our best practices are at our company, and really help them to springboard into the work.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a bit of a story around that. Or in my younger days, I worked with a gentleman who came out of the airline business. He was an airplane mechanic, and he said everybody's work got checked, and that's what the checklist was for. It wasn't that you didn't know the process. It was to make sure that in any kind of rote memorization, you didn't forget a simple step that, in their case, could have taken an airplane out of the sky, but in our case, we're not doing that, but it just makes sure that that delivery is done and that we don't have problems with that project afterward.
Mhm. You don't get that follow-up service ticket, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Onboarding new hires, getting integrated on our way of doing it. Like if we don't have templates and these kinds of things, again, there's more to it. This is a big part of it. It could take them a year, 2 years to get fully up to speed. It's just they're slowly getting the tribal knowledge. Just helps accelerate that and pull more work without having to wait for somebody to explain every single part. They can pre-read, look at your SOPs. Again, not all your documentation will be in the template ticket in the templates because you could be linking to SharePoint or other resources you have, IT Glue, a wiki. At least they can read and get up to speed more on their own. Okay. Uh, so yeah, what are the solutions? Got a few things here. I'm not going to read them all, but let's have a discussion here. I think just standardizing the work, as we mentioned, that what is the way of doing things in the company. And even if every project seems different, that they're more creative, inventive, exploratory kind of things, there's still a lot in common. Like, what is that creative process? You still got to kick it off. There's still probably billing involved, some admin things. So we can still have a template for those, even though they're technically they might look drastically different. There's still an overall process, and we don't want to miss steps. Yeah.
Yeah.
I
Right
think
side. Go ahead.
Go ahead, Tennille.
a great example of that, Wim, that pops into my head is we have a general template for hardware install. What is that hardware install? Well, of course, there's a lot of hardware that we install that's very specific, right? And we have a template template for that specifically. That said, we do have this kind of general template that if it's something that we don't do frequently or that we've never done before, there's a flow for a hardware install. We need to procure it, we need to set it up, we need to go on site to install it, etc. And so just having that flow and having that framework available makes it really easy when those projects come up.
Yep.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
And I
then,
think right sizing the tasks is a tremendous area where you don't have one or two tickets that are 20 or 40 hours in one task, and you have no idea what the actual progress of the work is in that. Um, you want to break it down into bite-sized chunks that I would say don't extend past 8 hours, and even rare up to 8 hours. That's a lot of work to kind of manage and measure at that large of a chunk. And then I would say on the other side, don't go below probably 1 hour unless that very small task has a downstream
mm,
effect. Like you cannot continue until this happens, and it might just be a 10-minute task, but you need to know, or the team needs to know that that task is done.
yeah, yeah, a key blocker or predecessor for other things. It could be a 2 minute thing.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah, a really good point on that one.
I love what you said there, Dean. And I feel like a lot of people look for a kind of black and white at what is the right template. And my feelings on this, and I'll see if you guys agree, is that there's not a right size. It depends on your company, it depends on your maturity, etc. There's kind of a spectrum, right, of too many tickets, which cause the challenges that Dean mentioned, too many places to log your time. Uh,
Mm,
Maybe you're not properly utilizing tasks within tickets, etc. But if you get too many tickets, that's a problem. If you have too few, that's a problem. And so I think it's finding for your company where in the spectrum you are. When you first start creating templates, I feel like you're more on this side, right? With you may define bigger blocks, but then over time you may refine those as you find more of those gotchas or that do require that step, or as you just refine and better call out the steps. And so I would say don't feel like your templates need to be perfect, um, especially when you're starting out. Get something down and then learn from it and grow from it.
yep.
Yeah, you're right, Tennille. To get it in there, that gives you that starting point to just learn and continuously improve on it and just make it better every iteration of that project. That's really all
Yep.
we're trying to do each time you run a project is just do it a little better each time.
Yep.
Also,
Um, so another thing I've seen go wrong is or a sign that you're not designing the ticket properly, the task, is if it's open like the most of the project. You should be able to grab that ticket and finish it, but people are keeping it open because like, oh, I might have to put some more time on it. Probably shows it wasn't designed properly. And I think maybe the exception is you've had one ticket for like client communication and just put it all in one ticket. That's okay to keep that open and overall project management. And but the majority of tickets should you start it and you finish it the same day, maybe 2 days. Um, so kind of related to that, I've seen people do checklists on a ticket and then it's done over a week or two. That's maybe a sign that it should have been broken up into separate tickets. Again, we got to be careful with the terminology. They're different tasks and ticket are used quite differently and interchangeably between these different PSAs. Um, so it gets a bit confusing just to have the discussion. I'm trying to keep it generic here. Um, but if you have a checklist on that project task, that should just be part of doing that 1 hour job, that 4 hour job today. It's not to break it up a whole other layer of executing work. Does that make sense?
And I think to add to that too, if you have those tasks broken down so that they're done in a day, you're probably cutting out meetings as well, because now your project manager can just look in the project and go, this is where we are. We don't need to sit and have a meeting on our entire project portfolio and determine where we are. The work that is getting completed shows us exactly where we are. Are we on
Yep.
track, on task? And yes, there might be some exceptions to that, but you probably significantly reduce your admin overhead of the project
Yep.
as well.
Yep.
The other
Yep.
thing that I would add is don't be scared to create issues.
Mm.
Um, and then possibly look at your issue tickets at the end of your project or throughout your project and see if those need to be changed to update your templates accordingly.
Mm. Yep.
The, we were getting so much in the chat and the chat stopped. So
Oh,
I
look
want
at
to
it.
ask the question, are how are we doing, guys? Are we talking about the things that you're interested in? Are there topics that you want us to dive into more? Um, what questions do you have?
Yes. Um, yeah. While we wait for those, yeah, I thought I had this. If the project is designed properly and you've got those tasks on a Kanban, it should, without drilling into any specific one, you should be able to just see. It should tell the story of where that project is at, and not having to read a single note. Like, okay, this one's here, this one's in progress, that one's waiting. That visual should tell most of the story already. So I don't have to ask anybody, send them a Teams message, drill in. Okay.
And I think protecting the scope becomes an easier way for the technician to say, I don't have that in my list when they're talking to the customer. Let me talk to the project manager about that before they just go, yes, we can do that. And then you've got scope creep, unintentionally.
I love that, Dean. And that's such a challenge so frequently, right? And so I think that's an absolute fantastic call out.
Yeah. Okay.
Tempest has a question. How do you create an issue within a project? Is that a new ticket under the project? I can really only speak to ConnectWise on this specific one, but there is an actual section in a project called Issues Tickets where you can put those tickets in and kind of solve that outside of the scope of the project. I'm I think within Halo and Autotask, you would just add them to a to the phase where maybe you encountered that issue. But to Neil and Wim, I would defer authority to you on that answer.
Yeah. And Tempest is on ConnectWise. So yeah, there's just a tab. You open the project in ConnectWise. There's a tab for issues, and it's very similar to a ticket. It's all the same fields. In Autotask, in your project, you can have both your regular tasks and tickets. Really confusing how they've done it. Yeah,
And I
and
would also, oh, sorry, Wim, go ahead.
I was gonna say, AJ, yeah, we're gonna show a whole bunch of examples later, so it'll hopefully fill in or lock in those pieces for you. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, she found it. So awesome.
Perfect.
Perfect.
It took, Tempest, I'm going to be honest with you. It took me a while to have the courage to utilize those. And since I have been utilizing the issues tickets, I've really grown to like them. So I would say try it and see how it goes.
They're also
Before
great for that
that,
lessons learned at the end. Like
yeah,
what came up in issues throughout this project, it becomes self-documenting within the project to say, these are the three things we hit. Oh, look, we hit those often. Maybe we need to adjust the template or our process around that.
Um, is there a way to look at all the issues or only by project? You can filter. I know in ConnectWise you can do a ticket search. You could probably do it there in ConnectWise. Or sorry, in TopLeft. I'm not sure exactly how you would do that to filter by that. We'd have to follow up on that one.
The I know from looking at the back-end data, the project issue tickets typically don't have a phase associated with it. So I know you could filter that in a search in ConnectWise to show me tickets that are in a project that don't have a phase associated to it.
Hmm.
One thing that is coming to mind for me is I have customized in TopLeft the color of my issues tickets. That's on the old UI. It's coming on the new UI. Uh, and so what I love is when I pull up my TopLeft board, I can pull up my TopLeft board. I can have it by projects in the rows. And then anything that's an issue is highlighted for me. And I can quickly scan through my board. I can check all of my issues tickets and make sure that they're getting unblocked appropriately. So that would be one view to look at those. I'm sure there's other reporting that we could do to pull those.
Yeah.
But sorry, and so that's one way that I would be looking at them across all my projects instead of just one project.
Yeah. Okay. Actually, that's our AJ. I don't know if you've dropped off already. No, he's gone. Okay. Um, that was literally the next slide. Yeah. Um, yeah. So benefits, obviously move projects quicker because people know what to do and do it in the right sequence. Um, delivering projects early. So that's, I always got the story from Steve Sardellis. He presented a webinar a year ago, 2 years ago on project flow. And he talked about full kitting, like getting your project entirely ready before you start, reducing the multitasking, etc. He did a bunch of these things, the templates, how he changes how he estimates, assigns the work, and he improved his projects like 60% faster, which is huge. And Dean,
And when,
go
when you
ahead.
said kitting, do you mean like the project did not start until all of the hardware was like in shop?
Hardware, approval, resources,
Oh,
things from the
brilliant.
client. Um, so just, yeah, think of the project where you started and you're waiting on the client. For me, what comes to mind, like phone systems, like you're ready to go, but you need like IVR or a list of users or something simple or some training to happen. So he's like, no, let's get those training sessions scheduled before we do anything.
Yeah.
All right.
And you build that into your template and then you do it every time.
Yep.
Yeah.
Because when you have to put something on hold and it has to wait, that's a huge waste. Like to get back into it. It's just then you have more meetings about it. Are we done yet? Are you ready to go? You have the information for me. There's just a lot of wasted time there.
Yeah. And you get your engineers working on something else and then
Yeah.
they have to context switch or they can't leave this partway through, so you end up delaying projects. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Sorry, I think you were about to ask me a question as
The
well.
next one, because this was your note from when we did the prep, speeding up quote to cash.
Oh, so this was the project templates. So when we modulized them, um, they were able to put them in the template or into the project, put that to a status of quoted so that it didn't show up as work to do yet. Uh, then it, like I said earlier, that quick 10, 15 minute, excuse me, sanity check of is this project correct? You quote it at the door, and then your project team now also has a funnel of the work that is coming. It doesn't just show up the day the client signs and it's there. So you're speeding up that quote to cash because you're now going to deliver that project a little bit faster. The team has planned for that capacity or that work that's coming in. They know it's coming. So you've sped up that entire process by doing that.
Yep. No, love it. Yeah, compressing everything. Get our quotes out quicker, transition to delivery quicker, get the hardware in quicker, deliver it quicker, and not having them lingering around so we can invoice the last milestone quicker. Yeah. And we mentioned yet leveling up engineers to pull any ticket. To being at your level one, be able to escalate them to a level two, level three, and doing more. Um,
This was a huge win for us at Morgan Birgé when we started using TopLeft. Before TopLeft, our dispatchers and project managers were only assigning tickets to resources that they knew that could do the work. And so it was resources that were experienced in that area. When we moved to TopLeft, we had that visibility of available work, and we utilized the pool method for a lot of our work. So if a resource is available, they look at what the next prioritized ticket is. If they have the skill sets to do that, they pull it and they begin working on it. Sometimes what that means is an engineer may pull in a ticket that they kind of know how to do or they want to learn how to do, and they need some coaching with that. And we talk about that in our stand-up meetings and make sure that they have the proper support and the proper review in order to deliver that appropriately. With doing that, I had an engineer that had been a junior level engineer for a very long period of time. When we implemented TopLeft, within 6 months, he received a promotion. And the reason that he was able to grow and prove his skill sets was by being able to pull those tickets that previously he hadn't been assigned.
An awesome story. I love that growth in people and how that gets enabled. That's fantastic.
Yeah.
And it helps the team. It helps more delivery, and it also engages your resources. So much of what we do is engaging our resources and having them passionate about their delivery. And if you can help them to have that, it just makes for a different dynamic.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And then even the next point, you have project managers managing a larger portfolio, which just reduces that overhead that you have. It increases their experience in managing projects and helps them towards their goals of maybe they want to get PMP, like the number of hours they need to manage before they can achieve that certification. That's fantastic. And there's just so much that can help. Even just we always want to shave a whole bunch of time off of a project, but if you shave a day off of a project each time you deliver it, you're getting better, more efficient each time. It makes everything run just a little bit smoother.
Yep. Yep. And elevating the PM from being less of a coordinator and having to micromanage too many tickets and just being more looking at the portfolio. So if it's that template, you create the project and it just kind of rolls and the team can run with it, a high level of trust, then the PM can back off from getting into the weeds and opening the notes and asking. So less admin micromanaging and more real management. And to know you saw this reducing the need for dispatchers on the server side. I think that really applies on projects too, is less scheduling these tickets and just pull-based flow.
Absolutely. When we started with TopLeft, we were able to remove our full-time dispatcher.
Yeah. Okay, awesome. Let's go through some examples in the different PSAs. So we can go to Autotask, Halo, and then ConnectWise. Yeah. So here's an example from Autotask. It's a master template. So this is one way of doing it, is everything is in here. So you see this. Oh, I guess, can you guys all read this okay? Or do I need to make this a bit bigger on Zoom? Just let me know in the chat. But you can see this. Yeah, okay, I can, give me a moment in my backstage. Okay, is this better? Just thumbs up. All right, so yeah, it doesn't get any bigger. So first bunch of project management. I'll do the kickoff, the planning, hardware ordering, and then the different phases for discovery and design, hardware staging, etc. So I guess in Autotask, this is the only way to do it. You can only apply one template to a project, and you can only do it when you're creating the project. So it seems like in this area, ConnectWise is better than Autotask. So yeah, in this template, you can see, you can define a number of things in there, like the billing parameters, other attachments, different things. So I guess you can put in your estimated hours. We haven't on this one. Oh, there's sort of the duration. This is where I'm not familiar enough with Autotask to comment on the difference between estimated hours and duration. I don't know why that's there. Maybe somebody knows here. Just pop in the chat.
I'm not familiar with Autotask, but my assumption would be that the duration is the number of days that you would be required in order to deliver that. Well,
Mm,
your hours may be different than that.
yeah.
Looking at the numbers, I wonder if they were just entered into the wrong field. Like internal project kickoff and planning is probably an hour of estimated time as opposed to it being 1 day.
That could be. Um, because I had a team member put this into a demo environment in Autotask, so maybe we just put it in the wrong field because we don't know what we're doing in Autotask, or yeah, or they're just less comfortable with it. Because we're in our MSP we use ConnectWise, have been using it for 16 or 17 years. So here's an example from Halo. And so what did you notice with Halo versus ConnectWise, Dean?
You could build out the children a little easier. You kind of and you start it from a ticket and apply the project template to it. Um, I think I didn't experiment with this, but I think you might be able to do that twice within a ticket or within a project once you've created it, if you add another ticket and apply a separate template. But I didn't test that because what I was worried about was would it overwrite everything? So if maybe there's somebody with some Halo experience in the project section, that would be great to confirm that. But
Yeah,
essentially, I just you just build out your project the same way.
yeah. Your children, and then your milestones, they have a as a real separate thing, right? It's kind of like a
Yes,
phase, but still they do it differently.
yes, and each of the children are associated to the milestone.
Okay. Yeah, their database object structure is very different than the other PSAs, which was interesting for us on integrating TopLeft. Very different way of doing it. And I've heard from MSPs or at least one that switched from ConnectWise to Halo. They're like, after a year, they realized that they weren't onboarded properly. It was a step back on the project side between the product and how they're onboarded. So you got to be careful with. There's some nice things about Halo, but some things just aren't quite as structured, as organized as ConnectWise. Okay, so I got the examples on ConnectWise next, and this is showing the. Like I say, Dean, you can explain the strategy of kind of the Lego blocks or the modules for building projects.
Yeah, so what we did is rather than having um, a project for an infrastructure refresh or a technology refresh or rebuilding some servers and having one template for each of them, there are components that get shared across all of those. I think Tennille mentioned that earlier. And project management, of course, is one of them. Like you are going to have a kickoff meeting, you're going to have a client meeting. There's some coordination that you do. So what we did is we built them into individual templates. So we call this one project management. You just always pulled in the project management template to start, and then you used the other components that you had. So, for example, a server build had, the steps. You would just pull this in one for each server that you were building throughout the process. If it was still hardware or whatever it is. So if you had three to build, you just pull this template in three
Hmm.
times. And you've got different phases. You name it to the server, and that gives the project manager the information of what's being done. And then at the end, you've got your infrastructure documentation, service desk handoff, kind of the things that always happen at the end. Um, and you build that into the project, so it's all in there. It just becomes that checklist, and you have one. Um, for example, actually, it looks like I missed adding in the lessons learned meeting into this phase. Well, now you don't have to go through 15 different project templates. You just add it to this one project template. And because you pull that into all of your projects, you now know going forward that task will be in your project. And then this is what it looks like when you pull it in. It just pulls them. It sets the phases. Like the first one you pull in is project management. It sets each phase to the order in which you pull it in. And of course, in ConnectWise, you can drag those around and move them. And then from the sales perspective, they can look at this and say, okay, to rebuild 2 servers is 47 hours of total work. They can quote that out. They have the engineer check it and say, yes, this looks good. There's no real complexities within this customer, and you're good to quote. And then you don't have the Brent method where you're waiting for an engineer to get to scope or review that
Yeah.
project.
Yeah.
Rena, I love how you laid out these screenshots. I think it's awesome and it really tells the story. I just a couple of thoughts while we went through this is one, I'm going back to Shauna's original comment on having so many templates. And I know when you break these down, then you get more templates, right? But if you break these down and you have alignment on small components, then you can bring in those small components and work in the same way. So um, having those broken down, but having those be more maybe aligned across different teams and being able to modularize across teams may really help you to manage that. And then the other thing that I wanted to throw out there, and I'll be honest, we're not operational with this yet. However, what we're doing what we're trying is with our quoting process now, we're doing exactly what Dean just described. And so during the quote, not after the project's been won, during the quote, we're doing exactly this. We're bringing in the modules that are relevant for that project that's being sold. And then the salesperson has the 47 hours, and then what they're doing is they're having a tech check it. So all of this is put together for the tech, and the tech comes in, they say, okay, this is the requirements of the project. Here's what the salesperson currently has. And they may make some suggestions for this project or for this client. We need to increase the hours here because of this. And then that is what is sent to the customer. Once that project is won, we already have our project plan in place. So once that project plan's won, all we do is we change the status of this from quote to new, and we have our project plan. So like I said, it's something that we're working towards. We have a lot of quotes that have been created, and now I'm ready to win one of those opportunities and flip the switch on it.
Yeah.
Fantastic.
I guess I want to be clear is our point is like you have templates. This is one way of doing it.
Yeah.
But you could be doing it in Excel, but have some standardized way of doing it. So some people use Excel, and that can work. And then you're recreating it here, of course. The other way is there's tools like ScopeStack. So I've done a webinar with them as in the past, and that helps in that pre-sales statement of work generation, and really helps the sales team. And then once you've won it, it'll push into ConnectWise or your PSA, which will show up in TopLeft. So there's a few ways of doing that. And then I think a good thing to mention is be thorough in the templates, because it's easier to delete a ticket you don't need. Like you apply your template, your project, and you're like, hey, this doesn't apply for this particular project. It's easier to delete than to think about what might have I missed.
Great point.
Right. Yeah, just have a prompt. It's just delete it, delete a ticket, punt it, or just mark it as done, whatever. Can save a lot of time.
I'm just looking at Shauna's question here. Is there a way to tell if any project workflows are attached to project templates? I'm not aware of being able to assign and I'm assuming you're asking about ConnectWise, Shauna. I don't think there's a way to assign a workflow to a project template, to a project ticket maybe, and if it's got a specific name or categorization, that would be the only way. The one downside to ConnectWise templates is you can't really pre-categorize your tickets when you put them into the project. that has to be done if you're using that after the fact. I hope I've answered that question for you. Good.
Okay, I am just shuffling my screen share. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to move on and show an example of a template from our environment in top left is how we run these webinars. So we moved, I don't know, 3-4 months ago, put this process in place. It's been really helpful for our monthly webinars. So we have a template. Actually, let me show it full screen here as well. So I got a pre-event phase with, we got to figure out a topic. We got to have a pre-discussion. We got to set up HubSpot pages and Zoom, all those things. The day of event, and then sending recording to the registrants afterwards. So we got those 3 phases. And then here's an example of some of the notes on a ticket in the project. So a note for my marketing person, set up a wiki page like this one, like copy it, make it a subpage here, link it. So being very clear. And so yeah, you can have links to other dashboards, tools, SOPs, whatever, to give them all the resources so they don't have to go and search or remember. So we want to leave that breadcrumb so they can go and find it easily and not have to ask. So an example, yeah, blocking time in calendar for presenters. So this one is coming to me. Block it even before we have the Zoom stuff set up. Just get it blocked with a bit of buffer time for starting early or the technical check. And then it all shows up in top left. So I'm going to show that live actually. So here's our live Kanban board and our new interface. So you can see where we're at, or we're started is our live event. In the completed column, we can see we've got our slide deck done. We've sent the emails, interviewed the topics or the speakers. We're doing the live event. And then in this sprint, so for this week, we're going to disable the banner on the website, send the recording email, uploading the record. All those things are there. So Nina is ready to grab those probably today or tomorrow. So, and then the backlog is stuff that doesn't need to happen this week, like right after. So let's just split that out of, do we repurpose the content to a blog or a video, short or reel? So we're eating our own dog food here, as we call it. Yeah. Okay, let's wrap up. Let's go back to my slide deck. Again, we've got on the events page, I'll put the link in the chat. We've got recordings from other webinars we've done around projects. So one with Kevin and ScopeStack. So Kevin is another client using both ScopeStack and TopLeft. So sharing how he's using that to do templates, standardize what they've done. The one with Steve on how he improved his projects. So yeah, it's just a lot of information packed in there. We've done it twice with him and he packed out more in it the second time, talking about the kitting and different things. So highly recommend that one. Yeah, sorry, any questions? Yeah, pop them in the chat, whoever's left here. But this is the end of our slides anyway. So we have an operational maturity assessment you're welcome to do on topleft.team/OMA. So it asks a bunch of questions and looking at your operational maturity. I review all those results and I'll get back to you on that. And then you obviously schedule a demo if you you're not using TopLeft yet. So any questions? We'll hang out here for a minute or two. But any other closing thoughts or topics or things on your mind, Dean or Tennille?
Actually, I was going to say the template that you showed, Wim, for setting up these was actually a really great example of the exceptions that you have to kind of don't extend tickets beyond 8 hours or less than one, because there are critical tasks that need to happen that don't take hours, but it's just this becomes part of your checklist. And I think Tennille made the point earlier, everybody's process is going to be different. There's no hard and fast rules on how to create it. Build it for what works for your business right now.
Yeah. And yeah, Tennille and I had actually looked at, could we create some project templates to share? But there's just so many scenarios. And if you make it generic to work for everyone, then it really works for no one.
Yeah.
That's a great call.
Yeah. So I've kind of given up on that project, by the way. Yeah.
I really do feel like it's just where you're at kind of in that spectrum of your ticket sizes and how mature you are, et cetera. It really changes company to company, and some of it's your strategic advantage. What are those things that are important to you as a company that you want to make sure that you deliver, having those
Yeah.
included?
Yeah. Yeah, it's a bit like a workout plan. You can go download all these workout plans online, but they don't understand where you're at, your injuries, your fitness, your whatever, right? Your time. So, got to build your own and find what works. So, yeah, for everyone here, I guess what's one thing you're taking away from this and you might work on in the next week or month? What's a takeaway?
I was kind of reading back through some of the comments here. I would love some more.
What are you going to do differently? What's a conversation you're going to start with your team? Yeah. Yeah, continuing. Yeah, Shauna says going to continue working through template cleanup. Yeah, if it's not being used in the last year or two, maybe it should go. Just remove the cruft and the fluff.
One thing that I like to do for ticket cleanup is I'll put like delete or something like that at the beginning of the ticket template. And then if nobody uses that, then or comments on it, then after so many days, then I'll go ahead and delete it. It's kind of the idea of if you've heard the idea of in your closet, if you turn the coat hanger around, if it's backwards, then you get rid of it after a period of time. It's kind of that same approach.
Yeah.
Yeah, the issues are a great thing to utilize. It just helps you improve the process and it gives you a place to document it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we are at the top of the hour. Thank you, everyone, for joining. Thank you very much to Neil and Dean for contributing. Fantastic stuff. And
Thanks.
yeah, enjoy the rest of your day or your evening, wherever you're at. So, thank you all.
Thank you, everybody.
Cheers. Yep.